City of Stevens Point Public Works Committee meeting, recorded September 12, 2022.
18, we'll call the Board of Public Works meeting to order. Trish, could you please call roll?
Sure. Mayor Wiesa.
Here.
Carlson.
Here.
Fred Hoppensberger.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
Beamer. Here. And Shuda.
Here.
And everyone's here. We'll move on. Item number 1 is the director's report. That was included in your packet. There isn't a whole lot of note. We are in the middle of construction season, heading into Wisconsin's second season, which is winter. At which point we fix all the potholes, right? So if anybody has follow-up questions for the director regarding the report, you can contact him. But it's all pretty routine stuff. Director, was there anything you want to add to that?
No, that's all I was gonna say. Pretty routine this month.
That's good. Item number 2 is the overview of the 4 transportation referenda questions on the November ballot. We're going to be doing this between now and November to try and get the word out as much as possible, because we are now in a situation where even our routine work could potentially have to go to a public vote, and we want to make sure everybody understands what and why they need to vote on this. So the 4 items that we have here, there will be 4 questions on the November ballot. 2 of them are regular routine work that you'll be hearing about in our capital budget presentation, which is coming up at the next meeting. That's reconstruction and resurfacing of roads. Director Badun, you want to give us just an overview of what's included in the reconstruction referendum question and the resurfacing question? Again, normal routine work that's budgeted for and won't affect your property taxes any more than any other year.
Sure. So the first one being the reconstruction project this year, we're looking at portions of Minnesota, Algoma, and Texas. That area just south of Clark Street, near Metro Market. And so, yeah, this is just another one of ours where we work with utilities to identify the areas that most need. You know, we're looking entirely at the corridor. This is one that was otherwise slated actually several years back. Most of the things are included within the capital budget. So just otherwise our project to get done just falls out to be, greater than $1 million. Nothing really unique about this particular project.
Okay. And I want to point out too that we began lumping our projects together several years ago, because if you're doing a road reconstruction on Minnesota Avenue, and the next one is on West Street, and the next one is on Martha's Lane, all scattered all over town, you're going to get traditionally higher bids because they have to move all of the equipment. So we try and bundle them together in the same area. And the reconstructions also work with the utilities underneath, which gives us a better price. So that's why you're seeing some larger numbers than you have, say, 10 years ago, because we're lumping projects together a little bit more. We could, in theory, split them out and come in less than $1 million, but that's not the intent. We want to make sure that we're open and transparent about the work that we're doing. Again, both of those 2 projects are normal, routine stuff that you will see on our capital budget every year going back to the dawn of time. They won't affect your property taxes any more than normal, because you're going to see some high numbers on these referendum questions, but this is normal, routine, budgeted stuff. Items A and B, we'll take those individually, and Director Karnowski's not here to speak on some of this, so I'll be doing that for him. The first one, A, is a resolution for a construction of a railroad sidetrack. This is something that's been in the works on the back burner for quite some time. We've had plans drawn up. We know that East Park Commerce Center's, one of their biggest assets is that it's served by rail. But to make that rail effective, you need a sidetrack to pull those cars off of the main line and get them to the people that are going to be using them. So the construction of a sidetrack was inevitable. We just didn't know when. It was already asked of me, why didn't you approve this project before the referendum? Well, the simple answer is we didn't need it. And we may not need it right now, but we are pretty confident that we're working with a developer right now that city staff is confident enough that before the next year, we're going to need to do this. And that's why that's on the agenda. That will be funded entirely through the TIF, which is not your property taxes and my property taxes. That falls on the developers in that district. All of the increment within that district is what pays for these improvements. And this is one of those. So again, even though it's a large price tag, It's not going to affect your property taxes and my property taxes. Those are paid for through the TIF, which is increment created by the developers within that district. And we are fully expecting that that railroad sidetrack is gonna need to be constructed, or at least begin construction, prior to spring. Fingers crossed, we're still gonna do that. Item B is referendum for the extension of Badger Avenue. Again, something that has been planned for well over a decade. We know that East Park Commerce Center is ripe for development. And with that development comes infrastructure improvements. We are, again, working with developers that we believe will require us to extend Badger Avenue. And that extension of roadway will serve all of the East Park Commerce Center for generations. But it's very likely that we're gonna need to be doing this in 2023 if all of the pieces for those developments that we have in the works right now fall in line. Unfortunately, we can't talk about any of the development plans because those are, at this point, still confidential. But as soon as we have developers' agreements in place, we'll be bringing those forward to the Finance Committee, to the Plan Commission, to the Common Council, to get the development agreements taken care of. But these infrastructure things, because of the way the timing works, we had until August 30th to get them on the November ballot. If we don't make the November ballot, the next one is April of 2023. Now, if we get a deal signed next month, I can't go back to a developer and say, hey, we'd love to have you, we got a great agreement, but I can't give you a yes or no until April. That's just not practical. And if that didn't work out, the next regular election after that, because there's not a fall 2023 election, the next election after that is April of 2024, more than a year away. So that's why you're seeing those two non-normal items on the agenda. They're both working with developers that have been in the works, are not yet public, but none of them will affect your property taxes any more than any normal year. So you'll see some large numbers there. If anybody has questions, we'll be available as frequently as possible. We're gonna be doing some videos, we're gonna be doing some public listening sessions to let people know what's going on with these referenda, because we need to make sure that people understand that. These are critical to the growth of the city, and we need those supported. Anything to add there, Director?
No, really nothing more to add to that.
I have a comment.
Yes.
I remember when I first got on city council, they talked about the railroad spur then, and each time it moves, it gets more expensive every single time. It's more than doubled since when I first started back in 2012. And this is something that would really greatly benefit that and really help out the city a lot. And it's just been taking longer to get it done. So, and as I said, the price just keeps going up and up. So if we could get this done, that would be great for everybody involved.
That triggered a question for me too, because someone had asked too, why don't we get Canadian National or the railroad to pay for this?
They won't pay for it.
Sidetrack, and that's just that's not practical. The railroad provides the rail service, but if you want anything above and beyond what they provide, you pay for it yourself. The developers pay for that, and that's what's gonna happen in this case, is the increment from the TIF is going to pay for that railroad sidetrack, and then eventually there's gonna be spurs as that park grows.
Can I make a comment too?
Sure.
I'm so relieved to hear all the meetings that you have planned, the listening sessions, because I thought that was key, especially to this one. Today alone, I had 2 calls, people wondering, what the heck is this all about? But, so I think it's really important as we're learning to get the word out to the public so they understand before they step in a voting booth to vote on it, that is what the whole story is.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to item number 3, which is to approve the ordinance amendments relating to chapter 9.05 as it relates to parking once again. Director?
This is a recent request from the university. My understanding is that they recently have relocated at least all or part of their custodial services to Nelson Hall. So they're making frequent visits there to pick up supplies. And so they're either at times blocking the road, they're up on the sidewalk, so they just asked if a loading zone could be enacted there so they could park safely without interrupting the pedestrian traffic or other traffic. So to us, it made sense. We're just bringing it forward for approval.
Need a motion?
Alder Kiemer, I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance
Thank
amendment.
you. Seconded by Shuda. Discussion? Comments from the audience? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that is approved. Item number 4 is to accept change order number 4 from AECom for an additional public meeting related to Business 51 in an amount not to exceed $16,183. This came as a request from council to have an additional meeting, and we have that scheduled now for October 6th. We're going to try and do everything we can to get the word out. We need all of your help as well. October 6th at the Spash Auditorium, 6:30. Presentation will start at 6:45. We're going to have representatives from AECom there. We're going to have representatives from the Department of Transportation there. Director Badoon will be there. City staff will be there. And we are going to try and answer any questions that people have regarding the proposed Business 51 outlay. We're sending postcards to every property address in the city. We're going to do interviews, press releases. If anybody has any other ideas on how to get the word out, if anybody wants to, knock on 26,000 doors, let me know. But we want to make sure everybody who wants to be aware of this is aware of it. Public meeting and information and input, October 6th, 6:30 at the Spash Auditorium. And this is what it's going to cost to have AECom, 3 AECom representatives there, plus all the prep work that goes along with that.
One
Oh,
clarification
sorry.
real quick. Even, I just met with DOT today. They will not, however, commit to coming. I'm still working on them. Yes.
Okay.
I didn't hear that. Who won't come in?
Well, the
DOT.
DOT. So the DOT has been
Oh, right.
pretty non-committal on everything.
Ah,
You ask them which way is best, they're like, yes.
yeah.
So we're gonna do our best, and if I have to call the governor's office myself, we'll do that to make sure someone from the DOT is there. Need a motion?
Okay, I'll do
I need a motion first.
Okay, I have a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second, I guess.
Seconded by Kneebone. Alderman
Don't I
Mauer.
have like 16,000 for one meeting and prep seems a little high.
Yes, yes it does.
Is there any negotiation that can take place on that?
You'd be surprised what's already been negotiated.
Oh, really? Oh, it started higher. Oh.
So keep this in mind, though. We're getting 3 people from AECom with different specialties committed. So their rate is what, like $500 an hour per person?
Aggregated, it's about about $500 or so.
Roughly. Plus all the materials that need to be prepared, even
Preparing, yeah.
though the work is done, the preparation for presentation materials takes time and money.
Yeah, and if I, because, that's, part of what we otherwise want to do is, since we've been through much of this process, which is called the NEPA process, it's the National Environmental, whatever, Policy Act, however it is, which is required as far as DOT to eventually get to our environmental documentation. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing this and preparing this in a way such that we can incorporate that into our NEPA documentation at the end, because we'll always need to present that. We've kind of gone through that process, we have what we need, but if we take any deviation from now, we need to otherwise present why did we deviate from what you'd otherwise come up with. So that's where some of the money comes up with, as well as I did request for 3 of the staff there, as the mayor said, with the different specialties, since there seems to be a lot of interest there, really hopeful, as well as expecting people to come up. I don't want to be caught without having the right people to get the answers to people, for one, as well as, and if we don't have the answers, I want to make sure the right people are there to follow up and get those, just because I feel it is just that important at this time, especially.
Alder Kiemer?
Yes, thank you. I had a couple questions about the scope of services document they prepared and some of the items they listed in the public meeting. It mentions a postcard style invitation that would be sent to individuals and organizations on the project mailing list. How extensive is that mailing list?
Every single property in the city of Stevens Point.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we talked about that just today.
Okay, and then my second question is item 3 under that public meeting section says they will update all exhibits to reflect the current recommended alternative. So I'm just wondering how this meeting will be different from the other public meetings we held, because if it's just a repeat. Okay.
The difference is that we will have all 3 representatives from AECom there. We will have the Department of Transportation represented there. And then, again, this is the updated, most recent version. So it won't be that different from the public meetings we already held, But this is one final opportunity for everybody to get their questions answered. We had heard that I didn't know about it, I didn't get the mailer, I didn't get the flyer. So every single address in the city is getting one
Okay.
this time. And again, I need everybody's help getting the word out for these meetings, because they're going to property addresses, not necessarily property owners. Property owner might not live in the city. We had to make that determination, because we can't send it to both. Well, I guess we could, but that gets really expensive. But the property addresses we know are in the city. So those are the people that are able to vote on this. Of course, everyone is still welcome, even if you don't live in the city. But we want to make sure that the city residents have a priority to get whatever questions they may have had answered one final time.
And if I may, to your point there about updating it, the biggest part of updating those things are going to be things that came out of the one-on-one meetings we had
Great.
with church.
Yep.
Because there have been over the two courses doing a number of changes that have yet to be reflected and shown into the public realm. So we
Great.
want to make sure that we're bringing that forward so everyone can see that those were very productive meetings and represent that, and that's where we want to start from, not from maybe what people otherwise have envisioning and seen in the past.
Yep, and that's extensive actually too, because we met with over 60 different property owners, right? Between the two sets of
Between the
meetings.
two, it was quite a few, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
Yes?
I just have a quick comment. I too was a little appalled when I saw the price tag, but in the full scope of the project, it's a very small price to pay. And if this helps calm the waters and get some consensus, it's well worth the money, so.
I agree, thank you. And I'm just gonna throw it out there. We started close to double that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I almost dropped an F-bomb.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be the first time.
And you have one to spare, I think.
I definitely did. I definitely did use the F word.
Oh, God.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any last questions?
I have one last thing. It's like they're gonna be sending the mailers out, the city's not. That's what I see.
They're
They design
preparing
it,
to.
we send
We
it.
send it.
We're responsible for the printing and postage, and we're working on that now. We're probably in the $4,000 or $5,000 range.
Wow.
And that's city prices,
There's F-bomb.
right? Feel free to F-bomb in your head.
Then we couldn't have stuck it out the water.
But again, like Alderperson Nebone said, we're talking a 50
Yes.
plus $60 million
It's a drop
project.
in the bucket.
An extra $25,000 to make sure that it's done correctly is a real small price to pay.
All right, I agree.
Okay.
You've made some good points tonight.
All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That is approved, and dang it, we're a minute behind. Adjourned at 8:30 or 7:36, 6:36. Up next is finance.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.